Have you come to a crossroads? Are you overwhelmed with the sheer volume of advice and information available on well-being, but you're still struggling to cope with the demands of life? Well, what if I was to tell you that you could invest 6 months of your life and remember, we're allotted 100 years, so we have 200 periods of 6 months. So what's one out of 200? But in that 6 months that you could thoroughly ground the three essentials of self-autonomous well-being maintenance, that being the integration of body, emotion, and mind. Now tell me, do you struggle with any of these problems? And of course, usually as people, we all do. Daily tension, stress and discomfort, or physical, emotional, or mental pain. And basically all of these are saying that we're not integrated. That there are body's mechanism to tell us that at some level, there's been some sort of pain, some sort of trauma that has interrupted our authentic self. And it shows up as emotional and mental frustration or difficulty in relationships, not being heard or being heard too much. And we get exhausted from dealing with this type of trauma. And that obviously leads to things like overwhelm, anxiety, and depression. Or perhaps you're a therapist or a body worker or a healer in any form, and you're looking for more well-being strategies, and you've realized that you just don't get enough time and consistency with your clients to really make a difference. And is there a possibility that courses such as these can be transferred to your clientele, where you can start to work instead of one-to-one, but with a one-to-many, where you can obviously reduce costs for your clients and get another revenue stream for yourselves. And as the money makes the world go around, that's essential. Or perhaps you're in a state like myself, where I'm good at helping others, but not so good at myself. So this kind of course is right on line for me at this time in my life. And concern for humanity's future. Well, I certainly am. And who am I? Well, my name is Paul Chapman. I'm a Chinese medicine man, meaning that for the last 32 years, I've been studying and practicing the art of Chinese medicine, and completely blown away by the wonderful complexity and wisdom of this ancient art. I've followed psychological health and well-being due to my own difficulties in life for many, many, many years now, and looked at many different pathways as well to gain an overall view. And most of these diminished, fell away, you could say, when I came across the perception of Krishnamurti in relation to the content of human consciousness. So Chinese medicine and Krishnamurti's perspective form quite a large part of this training. So I'd like to introduce you to Wellbeing Solutions, a pathway to freedom, where we make it simple for you to find purpose in your life, to trust your own authority, to discover the possibility of lifelong mental well-being, which is a complete transmutation within the brain. And with that, to regain physical vitality, because as these patterns of trauma drop away, they release energy, because it takes a lot of energy to hold them in place. And with that, of course, comes the main aspect of life in all ways, which is relationship. So how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to others, and how we relate to life in all of its forms. And of course, to be the solution humanity needs. It is certainly at an individual level that change occurs, and it's also at an individual level that the collective also changes. So our responsibility in supporting life in all of its forms comes back surely and firmly to our own being. So this is a pilot study group. I've run this before as a 90-day pathway, but I've expanded it to 6 months. So we doubled the time up to give It's so much more time to really integrate the three modules that are within this system. So over 6 months, we have 11 personalised coaching sessions, so about 22 hours. We have a study portal packed with self-paced study guides, so a premium pre-recorded autonomous wellbeing course. There's loads of information for practitioners, signs and symptoms of wellness and illness. We do a relationship roadmap. This is a specific aspect of this training where we go into the concepts of human consciousness as Krishnamurti relayed them. And it also develops into a maintenance system for body longevity and vitality. So you will walk away with a practical system for lifelong mental, emotional, and physical well-being, which helps us to get off of that crossroads, because the trouble with a crossroads that's coming from an aspect of fear or of lack, it doesn't matter what path we take, eventually it's going to fizzle out. So we have to bring it right back, peel all the layers off and come back till we can see the entire content of human consciousness. And in that space, there's an opportunity for new life. So this is an ascension pathway. Ascension sometimes is difficult because we see the opposites of below and above, or superior, inferior, etc. But it's a bit difficult to explain a pathway without some form of ascension. And if we look at the sequence of the 6 months, so for the first month, we catch up once a week. So this helps you find your way around the study portal. I can guide you in how to begin the practices. So we've got simple physiological practices, which we can call exercise, although that's a passive type of exercises, but specifically about restoring the essence of our being, the bank balance of our life force for our entire life. And we also, part of that is tracking change. So the thing that gets quite difficult in working out your own autonomy is coming to recognize the day-to-day occurrences that are happening. And as we map these out, they start to become really clear. And in that, we identify our strengths. And you could say our weaknesses, but it's actually our habits. So our habits are our pre-programmed neurological defense systems to avoid pain. So as we understand our habits and the short-term solutions they give us, we can start to integrate specific long-term solutions to start to build up our strengths, not to diminish our strengths, but to build them. In this first part, we're definitely going to come up with obstacles to change. We treat these very gently and kindly, and that's the introduction of compassion. And also in the first aspect, we look at particularly what is the will. What is the will to live, and how does the will operate within the body, emotion and mind? So we get 6 sessions in those first 2 months. Month 3 and month 4, we reduce that by half. Yeah, so we're down to 2 fortnightly sessions in month 3, and 1 monthly session in month 4. And this is part of finding your own way. So we're venturing out from following the guidelines of the program, and then it leads into a much more integral potential of authentic expression. We look at what flow is, especially the etymology of some of the words expressed around flow within the psychological interventions these days, and how to actually have creative expression in relationships. And creative means that it comes from present and new, something that's new, not old, not a memory, not a recording, not a trigger pattern, but actually a new expression. And we also look quite deeply at what is desire and choice, and comprehending the movement that occurs from that as in relation to pleasure and pain. And that helps us to move from fear to trust and compassion. Month 5 and 6, where you're really starting to rock and roll now. And this is where we spend quite a bit of time on identity and self. What is self? What is the, what do you call it? What's that word? The interrogator. We have an interrogator within our brain. We have a judge, a jury, all sorts of different aspects, different parts of ourselves. And we also explore much more on the elements of nature, which relate to the elements within a human being as well, and how we can harmonize with those. We get right into nourishment. Nourishment, of course, is food related, but nourishment is anything we take into our system. But in relation to food, we studied the five flavors, and I have a nice spring, summer, autumn, winter food guide for you, which has got specific symptoms and characteristics of the parts of our body that govern each season, and what foods can help rebalance those. The aspects on an emotional level and a mental level in relation to nourishment is worry. Worry is particularly the emotion of our nourishing organs, and blames the expression of it, where we take our energy outside and judge the world or judge others. And we're going to move from that in towards a centered aspect of integrity and trustworthiness. And of course, at the end, you become a graduate of self-autonomous well-being. And as I said before, where steps forward become based on authentic clarity. So most people are in the lower aspect. If we have that green line as the median line, and the well-being index of how much we restore and rejuvenate on a daily basis, right at the bottom we have shutdown. So people no longer want to learn things new. They're quite maybe not happy and content, but they stick to their own point of view. Not too easy to move outside of that, but often experience overwhelm. As we strive to get out of that condition, that creates stress. Stress is a great motivator, but as we know, stress that's prolonged is extremely exhausting to our well-being index, our vital bank balance that is stored in our bodies. The more we seek, the more confused we get. And then we have to jump from there to a state of accepting. Now, acceptance is an integration, because as we're accepting something, so there's still a division, still potential for conflict. But that is where we start the process of awareness and attention that can lead to the level where we actually do 100% restore on a moment by moment, and especially in a sleep state. And of course, as we're integrating body, emotion and mind, there are different aspects here as well. So we have, again, below the median line, determining is quite a word pertinent to our digestive system. It determines what is good and what is not good for us. It will store the toxins and poisons in different aspects of our body as latent pathogens. So diseases that don't show up in the present, but once the body gets totally overwhelmed with it, then they will pop out as rapid as a thunderstorm. So leakage is the lowest. So here the body's got to a state where it needs to leak in order to maintain some form of homeostasis. So we can leak via the bowels, frequent stools, diarrhea. We can leak via the urine. Incontinence is extreme, but it also starts as frequent copious urination. We can leak through sweating. We can leak through too much talking, too much crying, too much emotion. So they're all ways that we actually lose our vitality. Disease is a manifestation of concurrent behavioral patterns that are not beneficial to our overall vitality, that accrue over time and finally turn up as diseases. And I've got here laziness, and laziness is maybe a term that could be viewed negatively, but laziness really is unawareness. We're not actually aware of these patterns, and we continue to do things thinking that they're okay for us, but in some form we have to wait for many years sometimes, but we have to wait for disease to wake us up, to get us out of this lazy stage. liberating is the point in time where we find out actually there is something we can do. And even doing, that's something we look into in great detail, because we have to kind of understand what the motivation is for doing. Basically, a child is a when you look at a young baby, they're completely in their being. They respond automatically to their needs and desires through an appropriate expression. And if they're lucky enough to live in an environment where there are adults that are attentive to their needs, then that expression will lead to nourishment. So once we move out of this uh, degenerating cycle, we can move into dedicating. And dedicating is awareness that all life is connected, and not one action, thought, or deed from any living being does not have an effect on everything else. This is quite an expensive stage of understanding, and also quite a challenging stage, because it's a fast track to bringing up all the aspects of self-focused behavior that leads to disease, that's sitting in our in parts of our brain that we're not aware of. This is a stage where they'll come up fast and furious. And finally, longevity. So longevity happens in the moment, but it's also a lifelong span. And the Chinese say that when we live in harmony with the earth, with the constructs of nature, and within our own psyche, we do have 100 years allotted to us with full vitality. Emotion, we start unconscious, we end up connected. We move through all the states of emotion, fear, anxiety, anger, hatred, blame, responsibility. None of these are negative, but if they are unconscious, then they will lead to some form of disease, because all disease is bringing us to learn what it is that we're out of balance with, where we're not connected, where we don't communicate authentically, and where we attempt to control self or others or life to remain safe. So this is an ongoing practice. But once it's established, once we understand the core of it, then instead of fumbling in the dark, we move forward with what Krishnamurti calls choiceless choice. So because we're connected to that integral, authentic aspect of self, choice no longer is necessary, because we act immediately. And from that action, we learn. In the mind, we start disconnected, we end up with insight. So disconnection is isolation. We can see that throughout the world, through nationalism, countries, borders, wars, violence, conflict on every level is due to the fact that we are disconnected, that we are unconscious. Apathy is ignorance. We could never, ever be apathetic with insight. And intellectual, you could say, is the middle road. Intellect is essential for day-to-day learning, for learning to work in the mechanical world, to live in the mechanical world, the technological world. It's heavily orientated towards opinion, and is the central point, the balance point, where it can move from ignorance into an individuated state that is completely connected. This allows observation, and through observation, we're allowed insight. So when you work with us, now we're all told to put expert personalized support. I'm not too keen on the word expert, because except unless you put that down to self, because we are the only authority in our lives, and we've been taught that authority and experts know much more. So we have to swing that around on especially on a mental and emotional level, because when they're in harmony, they will bring physical vitality, um, and to regain our own authority in those areas. So I have been working for 30 plus years in Chinese medicine. I said before, psychology has been a great love and an interest of mine. So I do have a fair amount of experience to share with you uh, in different areas to help you get in touch with your own vitality and authenticity. So built for you pathways, as I explained that before. Um, Basically, we will dissolve trauma. Um, Trauma happens. Traumas happen to you, to me, to everybody, at varying degrees, through our ancestry, through the whole history of humanity. But in our present state as adults, trauma's perception. We look at perception heaps. Relationships is fundamental. And to be able to communicate and express yourself in an honest, authentic way has profound effects on the quality of all your relationships. And of course, lifelong mental well-being. So this is a pilot group for the 6 months. Your next step is to contact me and we can have a chat. Now, I'd like to discuss with you just some particulars about where you're at right now, to clarify your future freedom goals or your health goals, your well-being goals and dreams, what obstacles may be in the way. So basically what you've done already up to this state and where you're struggling with, what it will be like if you had dramatic improvement in all areas of your life. And is it possible that we can create a customized strategy for you that will help where you are right now? So please don't waste my time. So this calls for you if you're ready now for this kind of change and you do feel some level of inspiration from listening to this short video, and you are looking for solutions now. If you're not willing to do the work, and there is a little bit of work involved, especially at the beginning, because it's change, and change is an obstacle that's often brings up many interesting situations. So if you're not ready right now, you can keep this in mind. Contact me in the future when you are, but please don't book a call if you're not. The people that have worked with me, and most people receiving this information have worked with me at some level, so you know you know who I am, you know what I'm about, what my passions and goals are. If you don't know, then these are some words that some of my clients in the past, and I call them clients, but really they're fellow Chinese medicine practitioners that have come to be friends, and I've been honoured to work with these people for sometimes up to 18 months. But this is some of what they've said. I'm not going to go through their words, but I'll leave them on the screen just a little bit so you can stop the video if you want to read what they've got to say. So Selena from Western Australia. We have Anu from Canada. Joost from the Netherlands. Ashley's from France. Anne from the UK. And Karen from Michigan in the United States. Wonderful people and great practitioners. Inspiration to this profession. So, as I said, I can't wait to talk to you on the call. Please don't miss the call. If you need to reschedule, that's fine, but please don't no-show, as I won't reschedule no-shows. It'd also be good if you've got a quiet place. We'll be about 20 minutes, half an hour. Keep it. Get yourself a note, pens and paper if you want to. I can record it if you'd like that as well. because we're going to go over everything that we need to do to help you step into this pathway if it's something that grabs your attention. And that's it. So I look forward to hearing from you, and let's do it.